Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on X at Movies TV Mad and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X. A very warm welcome to the DC Universe Daily. I was watching the opening credits to Superman the movie the other day, and I realised there was this big revelation. I thought, oh my God, Mick, do you remember when you first saw this movie, when we used to celebrate movies? Somewhere along the way, we stopped celebrating movies, because you can't celebrate something that doesn't celebrate you, that doesn't celebrate the audience, that hates the audience. Entertainment began to hate its own audience. But something happened yesterday that gave me hope. We had the cast announcement for Fantastic Four, but not only that, the date of the release of said movie, July the 25th, 2025, the same release date as Superman Legacy. As a huge Superman fan and a DC fan, I should be worried about this. I should be scared about this. But I am not. Hope was injected into my veins, because with this we see the return of the summer blockbuster. It really started last year with Barbieheimer. In fact, people comparing Superman Legacy and the Fantastic Four movie from Marvel Studios being released at the same time with Barbieheimer. No, it isn't the same thing, and I'll explain why. Barbie and Oppenheimer are two films that are stark contrasts of each other. If you see Barbie, you're not going to say, well, if you've seen one, you've seen them all. Two very different films. So, and the thing is with comic book movie fans, they're very, very territorial. They're going to make a decision which one to watch, and some of them will decide not to watch the other. Of course, it all depends on which movie is better. One movie may be excruciatingly horrible, and one may be really, really good. But wouldn't it be refreshing if both movies were really, really good and audiences celebrated both, although we are in the 21st century and it's become a trend to hate entertainment rather than love it and celebrate it. And I've always tried to celebrate entertainment, because I grew up as a small boy within an era where we celebrated film. It was easier to celebrate film. Superman the movie is a great superhero movie. It's also the first one because it has a great filmmaker behind it. His name was Richard Donner, a great filmmaker who understood not to mess around with the basics. But I am excited for Fantastic Four, and that cast is, very, very solid. And I think that it could be a really, really good film. And I believe that Superman Legacy could be a really, really good film. So it's going to be very, very interesting which one of those movies wins. But like Oppenheimer and Barbie, is there a possibility that both movies win? Wouldn't that be refreshing? I hope they both win. But we do have a Marvel versus DC situation here. Now, Feige and Gunn have always said that they despise the whole Marvel versus DC fans thing. Whether you hate it or not, it's there. And for me, it's a healthy thing as long as people don't cross the line. I used to love the banter of the DCEU versus the MCU. It was fun as long as people didn't cross the line. But there could be a winner and there could be a loser. I mean, James Gunn could destroy his old employers permanently if Superman Legacy wins and Fantastic Four loses. But I think there is a scenario that both movies could be really, really good. Because I believe with the announcement of the Fantastic Four cast that Kevin Feige has taken back control of Marvel Studios. What do you mean, Mick? He's always been in control of Marvel Studios. No, he has not. Disney have been controlling Marvel Studios during Phase 4 and the beginning of Phase 5. We spoke about a potential reset of the MCU with Deadpool and Wolverine, and I believe this is what's happening now. Captain America New World Order will release now before Fantastic Four, so let's hope that doesn't do any damage. Mick, you want the MCU to thrive? Yes, I want cinema to thrive. Because something very interesting was exposed as well yesterday. And I do have an update on Joker Folie à Deux. Some very interesting updates on that movie. More proof of the celebration of cinema returning. But, I just feel that, this is all going to be something very, very good. But, it's one of those things where we've had this kind of conversation for so long about superhero comic book movie fatigue. And what happened yesterday was that we saw the end of that myth. There has never been any comic... What was I going to say there? There was never ever any comic book movie fatigue. Never. The media was speaking about it literally 5 minutes after the Marvel Cinematic Universe was a peak trend. Comic book movie fatigue could be a thing, could be a thing, could be a thing. It wasn't, and it wasn't. Then suddenly a lot of comic book movies started to fail. And they started to blame comic book movie fatigue. That was their excuse for the studios, especially Disney. There's a bad comic book movie fatigue, and there's been a lot of bad ones recently, but I think we are awakening from our slumber from this nightmare, and there's no fatigue whatsoever. The Batman and Joker prove there's no fatigue. When someone has a vision, a great vision for a movie, it's successful. The Batman was successful. No matter how some Snyderverse fans try to spin that, the Joker was ultra successful. So, if you make great movies, audiences will come. Now, it's like food. If you serve a customer something that's not to their palate, they're going to reject it. And there's been a rejection of a lot of, superhero movies, comic book movies recently. Madam Web and the Marvels recently, because they were badly executed movies. That's been the issue there. It's not about fatigue. But next year, we see the return of the summer blockbuster. We have a Jurassic World movie 9 days, around the release of Superman Legacy. Now, I told you and predicted that, this would be a jam-packed area. So, what do Warner Brothers do now? Do they stick or do they twist? What do I mean by this? Do they move Superman Legacy? They would be very, very stupid to move Superman Legacy. They would look very, very cowardly. Now, in the past, when the MCU tried to release a movie close to a DCEU movie, WB would move the DC movie. That shows the audience that you have a lack of confidence in the vision of that director. It wouldn't be a good look to move Superman Legacy. Superman Legacy must stay where it is. It must. Because if it wins, then it wins against the strongest of competition. Because I do believe this Fantastic Four movie will be very good. As I say, I believe this is the beginning of a reset for the MCU and DC as well. So it's huge. It could be a huge money-making year. It's very, very interesting. During the pandemic, they were locking us up in our homes. Streaming is the future. They tried to kill cinema, and it didn't work, because you can never kill the natural order of things. I like the cast for Fantastic Four because it's a proper cast. Proper actors. Yeah, half of me is kind of worn down by seeing Pedro Pascal cast for absolutely everything, but then I remember he's a bloody good actor, and he's going to be an awesome Mr. Fantastic. I also believe the rest of the cast will do a very good job. But it's not about the cast, because people place too much on castings of comic book characters today. Actors are sock puppets. Now, I'm not trying to reduce the role of an actor. I'm saying it depends on the hand that's inside the sock. depending on what kind of puppet you get. It's about the writing, it's about the directing, it's about the narrative direction of the movie and the characters. If the orchestra is to play good music, then you need a good conductor and a good composer. That's the difference between a great movie, a mediocre movie, and a bad movie. It's about your writers, it's about your director, it's about Kevin Feige at Marvel, and it's about James Gunn at DC. And the irony isn't lost on me that these are two people versus each other now that once worked with each other. Kevin Feige brought in James Gunn, you know, an unconventional filmmaker, to make a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Guardians of the Galaxy was something that I'd never heard of before I saw James Gunn's first movie, and I think a lot of us were in that boat, and we saw something very inspirational. In fact, after we saw that movie, we definitely were celebrating cinema again. And I believe James Gunn will give us a Superman movie where we're celebrating cinema again. I believe Marvel will give us a great Fantastic Four movie where we're celebrating cinema again. I understand that a lot of you out there are very, very jaded with modern day entertainment and modern day cinema. But I think we're turning a corner in terms of the summer blockbuster. I think we're turning a corner in terms of superhero movies. It's important that we have a variety of film, and it's not just comic book movies, that we go back to supporting indie studios and indie filmmakers again, something that hasn't been happening recently. And we need a variety. So we need strong comic book movies. We need a strong summer blockbuster system. It's something Hollywood went away from for a very long time, and it was utterly damaging. You need that season. Let me explain to you why. If you've got a season of big movies, like in the summer around July and August, right? But then in between them, you've got more indie movies, more character-driven movies. In between them, you have an industry of variety, like we used to have when I was growing up. That's what we've lost today, and we need to get it back. I want cinema to succeed, to thrive, but we have to go back to giving people who know what they're doing the roles of making cinema, of making great cinema. You can have the silly comic book movies, you can have the silly blockbusters that you just go and you don't look at them with much depth, right? James Gunn himself has said comic books are silly and these characters are silly, but we've also got to look at them on the level. We've got to take them seriously. So they can be silly, but we can't look at them as being silly, because films are very different to picking up a comic book. There's no question about that. So I celebrate the fact that Fantastic Four and Superman Legacy will release on the same day. Now we need another discussion. Now, with these two movies being released, and I don't believe this is an Oppenheimer, Barbieheimer situation. It would be amazing for the industry if it was. But as I said earlier, I believe that CBM fans are very, very territorial, and some will jump on one and some will jump on the other. But again, it all depends on which one is the better movie. As I say, maybe both movies will be awesome. I have a good feeling that they will be. But let's be realistic. There's probably going to be a winner and a loser here. There's no question about it, because unlike Barbieheimer, we're talking about the same genre, the comic book movie genre, right? Barbieheimer has two films from different types of genres. And Superman Legacy and Fantastic Four are two iconic properties from comics. So the same type of audience is going to go and watch these movies. Very, very territorial people who either are on Marvel's side or DC's side. So I believe there will be a winner and there will be a loser. There could be a big winner and a big loser, or there could be kind of a little bit of a winner and a little bit of a loser here. But James Gunn is in a position where he has to win. There's no in between. There's no, oh, that was a solid box office. That's okay. That was a good start. Money is being injected. This is a Superman movie that launches a new Superman in a new universe born out from the DC Extended Universe. It has to succeed. Too many things have been said. Too many, promises have been made. And James Gunn always took a big gamble in taking this gig on. But life is about taking risks. If you don't, no risk, no reward. And the reward for James Gunn, if Superman Legacy wins, is huge. And even for Kevin Feige, it's a big statement of intent to say, right, our movie is going to be great. We're going to go up against your movie. As I say, publicly they'll say, let's all just celebrate movies. There's no need for this Marvel versus DC thing. But privately, they love the Marvel versus DC thing. Because when James Gunn used to say, I don't like this whole Marvel versus DC, that was before he was a CEO of a studio. Once you're a CEO of a studio, you want the Marvel versus DC thing. You want the Xbox versus the PlayStation thing. It's good for business, right? But in terms of Barbieheimer, it was a different situation. You're not going to have Barbie versus Oppenheimer. You're not going to have one instead of the other because they're two very different things. As I said earlier, they're a stark contrast of each other. But these are two comic book movies, within the same genre. So this is Kevin Feige of old, where he used to go after DC. He used to put films around the same area as DC films because he was confident in what he had, and he probably knew that kind of commercially DC were in a weaker position because they had someone like Snyder who really came from independent film, who didn't have the mentality of fighting a commercial war with Marvel Studios. But James Gunn is a different animal to Zack Snyder. And he has a good rapport with DC fans. I know he doesn't have a good rapport with Snyder fans, but he doesn't need Snyder fans. He just needs DC fans generally and the general audience to follow him on this journey. And I'm happy to follow him on this journey initially, so I can see what he's going to deliver. Now, if this is a competition between Fantastic Four and Superman, who wins? We've seen Superman struggle in cinemas for so long. A few directors have attempted to make him relevant and failed to make him relevant. Even as a DC and a huge Superman fan, I can concede that there may be more of a want for a Fantastic Four movie than a Superman movie, considering how many times they've tried and failed to give us a Superman movie that captures the imagination of the general public. In fact, that hasn't happened since 1978's Superman the movie. That's a fact. Deny it as much as you want. In terms of Fantastic Four, they've done one version within two movies, and I enjoyed those movies. They weren't the greatest of movies, but I liked the actors. I liked what Tim Story did. I thought it was fun. It was enjoyable. This will be very different to what they did back then. But they wasn't bad movies. But that's the only attempt. Yes, of course. I'm a bit silly because I forgot myself. Please forgive me. I'm recording this first thing in the morning. There was a third Fantastic Four movie, the one that flopped, that terrible one. And I don't know what they were thinking. I really don't. That was a terrible attempt at Fantastic Four. I agree. But those other two movies were pretty solid and pretty good. And I think they're really, really enjoyable. But that was a long time ago. And this is part of the MCU. And because I believe now that Kevin Feige has wrestled control of Marvel Studios back from Disney, and he's in total control, because you can see the casting. The casting isn't diverse, and don't you dare tell me that Pedro Pascal is diverse casting. You may as well call him Mr. America, right? Or Mr. Hollywood right now. But whether you deem his casting as diverse, of course, he's not really comic accurate casting. And he has that wonderful romantic accent on him, which most of the time he uses. For example, I don't like Wonder Woman 84, but I thought Pedro's performance in that movie was absolutely fantastic. At the beginning of the movie, you don't really like him. He's a blatant con man. But then you see the sympathetic element of a father desperate for a son to love him, and that's a beautiful moment. So that's really the best thing about that movie. The best thing is Pedro Pascal. As I said earlier, I'm kind of fed up of him being cast in everything, but I can see why. He's a bloody good actor, and I think he will be an awesome Mr. Fantastic. But like Superman Legacy, apart from Pedro, the actors in that film thus far aren't that famous. But as I say, the casting isn't the most important thing. So I can tell you that I think right now there's more of a want for a Fantastic Four movie, a good one, than a Superman film. Now there's millions of Superman fans around the world, but we're not enough. We all supported Man of Steel and went and saw it. We all supported Superman Returns and saw it, and it wasn't enough for Warner Brothers. This film needs to bring in everyone. And there are doubts with that. I can say that. I can say that with a straight face. Even though I want Superman Legacy to make $2 billion, I do. I want it to be the bestest thing fucking ever. I do. I want it to fucking knock Fantastic Four into next Wednesday. As a passionate DC and an even bigger Superman fan, I want everyone to be saying, oh my God, James Gunn, oh my God, DC's here. It's knocked Marvel into the corner. I want those headlines. I crave those headlines. But will I get those headlines? I'm not so sure. I think I'm going to like that film. I think I'm going to like Fantastic Four. Yes, Marvel has been bad lately, but I think we're seeing a reset. Because there's only so many times companies can take losing money. And they understand now that they can't keep on doing this. Now, there's little corners of the industry and still Access Media supporting, certain people that have divided audiences, right? There's a Vanity Fair article with Kristen Stewart talking about certain things and trying to be divisive. But the thing is, when was the last time Kristen Stewart made a successful movie, right? So leave that there. Those people can keep on drowning as far as I'm concerned. But I think in terms of the mainstream industry, they now understand there's no money in doing what they've been doing, which is not celebrating film. At the beginning of the video, I spoke about watching the opening credits to Superman the movie and saying, wow, we don't celebrate film like we celebrated that film, because that film in those opening credits is a celebration of film. That music, those credits, some people think those opening credits go for far too long. I don't. I love it. I actually get upset when it's over. But it's a celebration. It's confidence that something good is coming. Da, 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 da. It's that fanfare. It's that promise that the music is so good and so loud because you're going to get something so good. It's like the old 20th Century Fox intro music, there's, oh my God, yeah, well, it must be good. It's 20th Century Fox. Obviously now it's 20th Century Studios. It's owned by Disney, and you ain't going to see nothing good coming from there. We're talking about different mentalities. There were a lot of issues behind the scenes in old Hollywood. Bad things, very bad things, right? And a lot of people are right to call that out. But they used to entertain the audience. That was their role, to make money by making good shit. And that's what Hollywood has lost. But also, Hollywood went to war with its own consumer and its own customer, and it didn't work. It tried to change the natural order of things. You see, in the world, we can improve the world that we live in. That's fine. You can do that. There's no problem with that. We can change attitudes and mentalities, but you can't change the natural order of things on what people want to see. In the history of film, there's certain types of leads that make more money for films than other leads do. Is it fair? No, maybe it's not right, but that's what works. There's a reason why Tom Cruise was a popular leading man for so long, or Clark Gable, or Paul Newman. There's a reason for that. It means it wasn't just straight white guys supporting that shit. It means the black guys, the Mexican guys, all the other Latino people, gay people were coming in, to watch Clark Gable, to watch Tom Cruise. That shit was selling because everybody was watching it. Top Gun Maverick is more evidence, right? It couldn't just be the straight white guys going to support that movie. Everyone was attracted to that film. That tells you everything you need to know. Don't mess with the basics. Don't mess with the natural order of things. Am I telling you that a black guy shouldn't lead a movie? Of course I'm not. But you can't make that the norm. And if you do, you've got to find a star. And stars are very difficult to find. People who are not just sock puppets, who have got an aura, a personality. Someone like Eddie Murphy. We need a new Eddie Murphy. We can't find one. There lies the problem. So they try and say it's important to see yourself on the screen. No, it's not. It's important to see someone you look up to, that you would aspire to be. As a kid, I aspired to be Martin Riggs, Superman, John McClane. I wasn't a kid then, I was a young adult, but you know what I mean. These kind of characters that you aspire to be. It's not about seeing yourself. Cinema made more money and gained more attention when we aspired to be the characters on the big screen and not seeing ourselves. Seeing yourself, seeing your reality on television or film, to me, is the most boring shit that you can get. And yesterday's announcements told us that. But I've been rabbiting on and I forgot that I've got Joker Folie à Deux updates for you. Todd Phillips posted more images from the movie. Stunning, beautiful images of Lady Gaga and Joaquin Phoenix as Arthur Fleck, the Joker, and of course, Harley Quinn. He was asked when we could see a teaser trailer. He said, I've been asked this a lot, so I'm going to say around mid-April because the film isn't out till October. I was hoping back at last October we would get something, but it's clear they're going to stay with the traditional marketing campaigns of what WB do. So we will see a teaser trailer of Joker Folie à Deux in April. King Phillips has spoken. If King Phillips and Warner Brothers say it's mid-April, that's okay with me. So it's very, very exciting. This is a movie that's going to cook. But that's not the only update I have about this film, because the cinematographer has been speaking whether or not Joker Folie à Deux is a musical. And I can confirm from what they've said that it is not a musical. There is music in the movie, she said, but it is not a musical. Now, I told you this the longest of times ago, that I suspected, I didn't know, because people were saying it was a musical. Access Media was saying it was a musical, and there was a debate, is that what we want? I'd still embrace it as a fucking musical. Because as I say, Todd Phillips has never failed. Everything Todd Phillips has ever done, I've loved. Everything he does, mostly is successful, and it cooks. The man is a genius. He took on a kind of genre he knows nothing about, comic books, the Joker, and he succeeded at it. And he will succeed at it again. You see, here's the thing. There's two movies we know that won't fail, and that's Joker Folie à Deux and The Batman 2. And The Penguin Show on Max, because people have faith in the creatives leading those visions. Nobody really knows what James Gunn's going to give us with Creature Commandos and Superman Legacy. Nobody knows if that's what they want. But in terms of Matt Reeves and Todd Phillips, we have surefire success stories here. And this is what the kind of thing I was talking about. Even though I'm excited for what James Gunn's doing, I do feel we are in an era now more of a Joker movie, more of a Batman movie, kind of visionary directors who come from the independent circuit with a vision on these iconic characters. rather than bottled up universes. It would be absolutely fantastic if the DCU succeeded, as DC Elseworlds continues to succeed. That's my opinion on what's going on. Yesterday gave me hope for the future of movies.